you're white, you're wrong in South Africa. You're a land thief, you are a racist. The whole time it's being told, and there is racist white people, plenty of them.
You say you're not a racist white person?
No, not at all. I've got many black friends. I think I've got more African black men as friends as white friends. I'm tired of being told, just because I'm white, I'm a thief. Just because I'm white, I'm wrong in this. I had nothing to do with apartheid. Nothing, nothing, nothing.
Is there anything specific that's happened, Charles, that made you think, I've got to get out of here? I've got to leave?
After the death rates and stuff and my machinery being cut up, and I'm still, after reporting everything to the police, not getting any protection or anything like that, the only thing that's left on my farm is a sign that says mining area. All the fences has been taken off, boom gates has been broken off.
Because they're being killed, and we don't want to see people be killed. Now, South Africa leadership is coming to see me, I understand, sometime next week. And, we're supposed to have I guess a G20 meeting there or something, but we're having a G20 meeting. I don't know how we can go unless that situation's taken care of. But it's a genocide that's taking place that you people don't want to write about. But it's a terrible thing that's taking place. And farmers are being killed. They happen to be white. But whether they're white or black makes no difference to me. But white farmers are being brutally killed, and their land is being confiscated in South Africa. And the newspapers and the media, television media, doesn't even talk about it. If it were the other way around, they'd talk about it. That would be the only story they'd talk about. And I don't care who they are. I don't care about their race, their color. I don't care about their height, their weight. I don't care about anything. I just know that what's happening is terrible. I have people that live in South Africa. They say it's a terrible situation taking place. So we've essentially extended citizenship to those people to escape from that violence and come here.
Welcome. Welcome to the United States of America.
A warm welcome for an unlikely group of refugees. Nearly 60 white South Africans arrived in the US this week after being granted refugee status on the basis of being victims of racial discrimination. President Trump's openness to accepting the refugees comes as the US has cracked down on migrants and asylum seekers from other countries.
There are voices out there, including the South African president, who has called you cowards.
Yeah.
You've got other Afrikaners who are saying that you're not refugees, you're opportunists, that you've abandoned the country. What would you say to those people?
I had to leave a 5-bedroom house, which I will lose now because I'm not going to pay for it, behind, my car behind, my dogs behind, my mother behind. It is not, I didn't come here for fun, but my children are safe.
What was it like when you got off the shuttle bus and came into that hangar and were greeted by the Trump administration?
It was overwhelming. I didn't expect that because I thought we're going to be in a shuttle bus, taken somewhere, and we will start working. All of us that is there, we know we're going to start here from the bottom because we are the new people here. We're going to start from the bottom.
Do you ever worry that you might be caught up in some big political game here? That you're a pawn somehow?
Yeah, it's a scary thing, but people mustn't think we're just taking advantage of this. We're coming here to make a contribution to the country.
Not everyone is supportive of those moving overseas.
I don't believe in running away from problems. We've got a lovely country and we make it work, and especially Afrikaans people. I think since we came here, we always made it work. It doesn't matter what happened, in the past and so on. We always look up and just make things work.
America, maybe they can help us one day, but we should be helping ourselves right now. That's the only way. We can't run away from our problems because they will always be there.
This video is for the white Afrikaners who are coming to the United States. I think you've already landed here. And I know that some of the folks who met you at the airport told you, welcome, we're so glad you're here. Most of us aren't glad you're here, okay? We don't want you here. We never wanted you here. And furthermore, I noticed they're gonna settle you in Idaho, Ohio, and North Carolina. I will tell you they're not our finest states, so they're a good fit for you. I understand that many of you are farmers, and I've seen a lot of people say, oh, that's great, we need more farmers. Sorry to say we don't. We actually need farm workers because we've deported most of them. So if you can, put your picking hat on and think about, picking produce, that's largely probably what you're going to be doing here, because I hear you don't have a lot of skills. I would also say that you're not going to have to hold just one job, but probably 2 or 3 to make up for your quality of life that you had back in South Africa. There'll be no servants working for $2 a day. There's none of that here. So you're the servant who's working for $2 a day. So enjoy that. You're going to have to pay for your health care, and ordinarily, because you're a refugee who's being discriminated against, you would go on Medicaid. But guess what? The Republicans just cut Medicaid. So I don't think you're going to have that option for healthcare. So maybe you'll do without. I don't know. And honestly, I don't care. I did notice that the Episcopalian Church had a program with the government where they would, they would resettle and help, refugees resettle. They find you all to be so onerous, they terminated the partnership with the government, and they said, yeah, we won't be resettling those folks. Other things that you need to know about. While we are 58% white here in the United States, that's not going to last much longer. Within the next couple of years, we're going to be the minority, which will be fun for you because that's what you're used to. Interestingly enough, we have a ton of Latinos. We're the 2nd largest Spanish-speaking country in the world. So for you, if you could stop speaking that dirty, guttural, whatever it is, German, French, Dutch thing that you speak, that Afrikaans, nobody wants to hear that shit. So you can speak English or you can speak Spanish, which is really the 2nd language here. In terms of other things that you need to know about, the black people in this country, they don't get with, okay? I know that there's a long legacy of colonialism and all kinds of stuff happening in your country, but our black folks have sort of been through the fire, if you will, and they're not going to be with. So you're the minority here. Enjoy. I really hope you like your time here. I'm going to bet my that you're going to be booking it back to SA probably within the next 12 months.
Afrikaners are a Southern African ethnic group descended from predominantly Dutch settlers who first arrived at the Cape of Good Hope in 1652. Until 1994, they dominated South Africa's politics as well as the country's commercial agricultural sector. There are approximately 4.5 million white South Africans, representing about 7.3% of the population. According to a Vox article, are white South Africans really refugees? A historian who grew up under apartheid explains. It's not the citizens of the Democratic Republic of the Congo, where 6.1 million people have been internally displaced due to decades of fighting among armed groups and widespread gender-biased violence. It's not Afghan citizens either, despite the continued human rights violations, especially against women and girls, perpetuated by the Taliban after the U.S. withdrawal from the country in 2021. And it's not the Sudanese people, who nearly 8.6 million have been internally displaced amid a conflict between military and paramilitary forces. A subset of white South Africans, known as Afrikaners, are the only people Trump has newly admitted to the U.S. as refugees. Trump has described them without evidence as victims of a, quote, genocide that's taking place, end quote, and anti-white discrimination, echoing rhetoric that has long circulated on the far right. And he sought to punish South Africa for that by cutting off U.S. aid. The U.S. government will have to admit some refugees from other countries who were already in the resettlement pipeline before Trump took office, per a court order issued in late March after the president tried to suspend almost all refugee admissions. But that court-ordered acceptance is a sharp contrast from the administration's enthusiastic outreach to Afrikaners. Trump's effort to label Afrikaners, quote, refugees, end quote, is based on dubious pretenses. The South African government and even some white South Africans argue that after the end of the apartheid system, which supported white minority rule in South Africa until the early 1990s, white people remain a privileged class. The typical black household has 5% of the wealth of the typical white household. And police data does not show that Afrikaners, many of whom are farmers, suffer from disproportionate levels of violence that would amount to genocide. So do white Afrikaners have a legitimate claim to refugee status? Fox spoke with Jacob S. Lamini, a Princeton University history professor whose research has focused on South African apartheid. According to Professor Lamini, I grew up under apartheid, literally under signs that said, quote, whites only, end quote. White boys chased black folks for sport when I was growing up. This feels like a real kick in the gut. There is no substance to the claim that Afrikaners as a group have been persecuted. These are not refugees by any stretch of the imagination. They are people who simply do not want to live under majority black rule. Some of them will talk about crime. I come from a family of small business owners who have suffered because of crime. I've lost friends to crime. I've lost relatives to crime. Independent stats show that whites as a group are not disproportionately targeted. If anything, it's poor people who bear the brunt of South Africans' crime problem. And it is a serious problem. So why not the Netherlands? I mean, isn't that where the Afrikaners came from? Their place of origin? Or what about France? Or maybe even Germany? Unlike the South African, white South Afrikaners, American freedmen have suffered 400 years, which included slavery, Jim Crow, sharecropping, redlining, land theft, police brutality, racial wealth gap, and the list goes on and on. And let's not forget, American freedmen fought in every single war. And also, talking about people who were forced, who didn't flee their homelands, but were forced to come to a country to work for free, involuntary, unlike these white South Afrikaners. So what do you think? Do you think white South Africaners should actually get refugee status and entrance into the United States, in which American freedmen, those who come from enslaved people in the United States, should get access and benefits to the United States? Let us know. Anyway, please like, share, and subscribe to your number one source for news and reparations, and we'll see you next time. Peace and reparations.